Well, we've got a superstar DJ here now, record label manager, Sven Garley.
Galley, but
No, it's Alan McGee, of course, who famously discovered many, many bands in his time.
because I'm old.
Yeah, we both are. How old are you?
61.
See, you're a whippersnapper. I'm older than you. 64, you see. Yeah, rock and roll. It's the new 34, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, I just think in music, young people will put up with you, but you've got to look vaguely in shape. That's it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Really, and so you just got to do a wee bit of exercise.
Well, by the way, this is for social media, which they didn't have it nowadays, did they?
No.
How did you? For instance, for the kiddies who are listening, how did you promote a band like Oasis, for example, when you first got them and nobody knew? I mean, how did you create awareness without interweb?
I think word of mouth, TV, and we got radio. That was it, really, to be honest. But I think back in the 80s, I know Oasis came through in 93, but 80s into the 90s, it was, so that I'll make it easy for people. So whoever was doing the famous Steve Lamacq, Joe Wiley slot, and like 7 to 10, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Well, I was doing it 88, 89, yeah.
Right. So if you got record of the week in that slot, great. If you got the chart show rundown, you know, remember they do a couple of new videos for new bands. If you got that, brilliant. If you got the front cover of the NME, brilliant.
Smash hits even.
No, but just to chart, to break a band going through, if you got NME, the Steve Lamacq record of the week, you know, and then that Friday night show as well, the one that Terry Christian had on. What was that called? The Word.
The Word.
You got them, you broke.
Thank God it's Friday. I thought, oh,
Yeah, TFI, yeah. And but if you got these key shows, there was 4 things in the 90s that you needed to get, really. Do you know what I mean?
So what now? What is the traditional media like radio, particularly interesting for me, and TV, as important as crucial? Or can you crack a band using your own platforms now?
Yeah, you do, but I think it's much more difficult as for new music. Do you know what I mean? I mean, oldies like me sometimes say, "Oh, the new music's not as good." I think it probably is, but it's just saturated because when Oasis came along, because they were so good, they shone really bright. Do you know what I mean? But people at least could see the brightness. Now you're just saturated.
Well, I mean, it's a good thing. It's like Marxism, you know, the workers must have the means of production, and you can have a laptop in your bedroom and you can make your own music, and through social media platforms you can promote it. I don't think there's a quality filter in the same way, and as you say, everything goes out.
There's no curators, but I think as well it's deeper than that. The way that if you're a young musician, you have a relationship with your laptop, which is your home studio, and you make the track. There's no such thing as demos anymore. So you work a track up, and eventually you might give it to a big producer like Youth or something like that, right? In the old days, 30, 40 years ago, to make music, you formed a band. Do you know what I mean? Now you don't need a band because you've got a laptop that can play the music.
This is my worry. In fact, there's a band on here today, The Death of Guitar Pop, and it kind of sums it up for me. I'm interested in talking to them because there's a band on stage right now. Well, you know, 4 lads with drums, bass, guitars. It seems to me, as somebody who's sitting there waiting to receive this stuff to play, there isn't the same breeding ground for it, the opportunities, because there aren't the tiny venues, you know, so the pubs where lads can practice in the garage and get up and do that, like you did back in Glasgow in the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, my first punk band was, I was a bass player. I was rubbish, but I was a bass player. It was called The Drains. Andrew Innes for Primal Scream was a guitarist, and Bobby was the singer, Bobby Gillespie. That was our little punk band. We never played a gig. We never left Andrew's bedroom. We never left Andrew's bedroom. But that was our punk band. When I was 16 and the two of them were 15, you know.
So what do you say to young lads or girls now who want to be sociable, who want to be in a band, who want to come out on stage and play to see the whites of people's eyes and actually, you know, make great rock pop music.
There's probably no money in it.
No, because you can't make money from recorded music, can you?
Not really. I mean, it's very difficult. I manage, Liz, I don't know, you know, I manage a load of old people. The Happy Mondays, Ocean Colour Scene, Cast, the View aren't that old, Kyle, the Professionals, you know, and then I've got one young band called The Gulps, and it's really difficult for them. And I've got them a publishing deal, a record deal, I got them an advert. Still fucking skin.
Yeah, I tell you, and another thing is radios. The big radio stations have changed. Now, Radio 1, 1 Extra, 6 Music, even Radio 2 are playing less and less of that kind of music, and more solo artists. And the people like Adele and Ed Sheeran, who are extremely talented, are just sucking up 90% of the interest and the money, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because young bands like this one won't get played.
Yeah, I mean we're living in a bland kind of culture, but at the end of the day, though, I mean there is, like, you're here, you've teamed up with you know, John does Cubics in Stone Valley and all the Sign of the Times. These are not bland festivals. These are like, average age is probably about 50. They're all don't give a shit. They're just getting pissed and having a nice time. And I think that's actually good.
I think it's the future. I've decided, and I'm going to do loads more of these next year because it's really good to be with the tribe, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, because they're not asking for anybody's permission. They're just having a drink and having a nice time.
But of course, people, the old bands are very popular because people are familiar with them and have loved them for decades. But nobody's saying, hey, you 22-year-old lads, you're not allowed to play. No, I think people are very accepting and curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different thing managing young people now, Liz. It's like, in a way, we've created a society of anxious people. Do you know what I mean? And kids are. I've got a 21-year-old daughter. I've got a 33-year-old son, but I've got a 21-year-old daughter, and they're all a little bit anxious.
They all think the world's going to end, don't they?
I know, and it's much more difficult for young people doing music, I think. Do you know what I mean?
Well, let's hope it's not the death of guitar pop just yet. So, talking to some of your proteges. They've done really well, and I wonder who you are most proud of the names you. I mean, I love Cast, I love Happy Mondays, but people you're dealing with now. But looking back over your career, from your first discovery, who are you most proud of?
Well, probably who I'm personally most proud of is Primal Scream, because not because I think they're better than Oasis or anything like that. I don't mean it like that. Just because I grew up with these guys and I was the least talented, so I became the manager, and you know, they're still a big group, still doing it. I think that makes me proud. But yeah, of course, like Oasis and, you know, Teenage Fan Club and
the names you can reel off. It's brilliant.
Keep going, but it's like, yeah, I mean, I like all these bands, you know what I mean? But then all the management clients I've got now, you know, like the Mondays and Ocean Colour Scene and Cast and The View, I love that, you know what I mean?
Well, I have to tell you now, your mate Bobby Gillespie, I did an hour special with him, as you know, recently. You heard it. But before the first time I was due to interview him, I'd seen him on stage at Glastonbury, and he was like glaring into the BBC camera. And when I was told I was interviewing him, I was absolutely terrified. You know what? He came in, and he was a complete pussycat.
Yeah, I mean, he's also sober now. In 2005, I think you're talking about that interview when he was on with all you guys at Glastonbury. He was off his nut, and he was off his head at that time, you know. But yeah, I think he got sober about 2007, 8, something like that. And like all is, I mean, if you're sober, you're kind of probably an alright person. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's just the drink that makes everything crazy, isn't it? You know what I mean?
So, you're DJing now as well.
Yes,
And you were going to do it tonight, but they've slapped a curfew on. So today at Stone Valley Festival, you're just here for the crack because you're friends with John, the promoter.
And I just came up because I had Ocean Colour seen it, the Irish Centre out big outdoor event yesterday, and I came on up. So it's only a couple of hours. Just see John, say hi, and I think he's going to put a few of my bands on next year. So
yeah, and he's also talking about expanding it to 6 sites instead of 3.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he's talking about other countries.
I think there's a real future for these smaller festivals, as you said earlier, because it's just cosy, and you get great bands, and you get right up there. And this weekend, there's loads of little festivals like this. They're all competing with the massive Leeds, Reading. I'd rather be here, to be honest,
Yeah.
I mean, there's bands you can't see at a site like this, but, it's just a nice atmosphere.
I'll be honest with you, I grew out of Leeds and Reading years ago. Do you know what I mean? I had some amazing times. Well, probably the most memorable time ever was when I put Kevin Rowland on. Do you remember when I put that album out? The one that, he had the what was it? The stockings on. Do you remember that? All right. It was called My Beauty, and I put Kevin on, and he got bottled off at Reading, and it was kind of brilliant. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, not that I think throwing bottles at people is good, but it was kind of, it was so provocative. But it must have been, what age would Kevin be in 99, 2000? Probably about 40. Do you know what I mean? And this 40-year-old guy in stockings and high heels got bottled off.
Well, I'm going to cut you off now, Alan, because I think these lads on now deserve you to go and give them the eye and decide, what future they've got. You never know. Thank you for talking to me. Have a great time. Do you want some sun cream? You're all right.
I'm going to go, Liz. Am I red?
You're like getting a little red, yeah.
Seriously?
It's because you're fair and Scottish.
I was looking for my phone.
Alan McGee, music legend, here at Stone Valley Midlands 2022. Well, we'll see him at 6 more next year, hopefully. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thank you.